it's a bit ridiculous. It is a bit ridiculous because, like, there's no it's only the Fever that'll ever get punished for this. It's only the Fever. And again, maybe there are situations where people don't say it, but like Stephanie White, she just admitted that she got fined. For what? She just got fined for saying she wants the officiating to be fair.
Stephanie White just found out the hard way what happens when you dare tell the WNBA refs to do their job. Spoiler alert, you get slapped with a fine faster than a technical foul in a toddler game of tag. And what was her crime? Assault with a deadly dose of truth. She dared to point out that maybe, just maybe, the Zebras and Stripes have been officiating games like they're watching a completely different sport. For that, the league reached into its dusty drawer labeled disciplinary overkill and fined her like she committed war crimes instead of asking for fair play.
What would be the main one, you think, if you could just pick one top area?
Are you trying to get me fined again?
No.
Because I did just get fined.
Now, Stephanie White wasn't yelling, throwing chairs, or channeling her inner Bobby Knight. No, she did something far more dangerous in the WNBA's eyes. She used logic. She stood up for her players, for her team, and, brace yourself, for accountability. Because heaven forbid someone point out that the officiating has been about as consistent as a toddler's bedtime. And in return, the WNBA dropped the hammer like she just tried to set the rulebook on fire.
Stephanie, what did you see on the last play from Caitlin? And then on top of that, what did you think of your team's late game execution?
I thought she got fouled. You know, I think it's pretty egregious what's been happening to us the last few games. You know, a minus 31 free throw discrepancy. And I might be able to understand it if we were just chucking threes, but we're not. We're attacking the rim. And the disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable. So it's disappointing. You know, that it doesn't go both ways, or it hasn't gone both ways. But we also can't allow that to consume us, right?
Let's get this straight. White didn't go rogue. She wasn't calling refs clowns, though if the foam shoe fits. She simply spoke up after her Indiana Fever team endured a stretch of games where the refereeing looked like a blooper reel from an officiating school dropout class. And what does the league do when someone highlights how bad things are getting? They fine her. Not the refs, not the replay crew. Because that makes total sense. It's like blaming the weatherman for the hurricane.
This gotta stop, bro. So Caitlin Clark's coach has just been fined over $1 million after this altercation she had with the ref that's going viral, and the WNBA thinks that she crossed the line and is fining her $1 million, which we all know is more than her salary. I mean, you're gonna tell me she's gonna lose $1 million for that? The WNBA is just completely cooked.
And let's not pretend this is about decorum. This is about the WNBA trying to duct tape the mouths of anyone who questioned their crystal ball style refereeing. See, the Indiana Fever aren't just any team. They're the team that came into this season with a spotlight brighter than a solar flare, thanks to a little-known rookie named Caitlin Clark. Maybe you've heard of her? She only brought more attention to the league than a dunk contest at a chess. And now, with eyeballs finally on the WNBA, the officiating crew apparently decided this was the perfect time to prove they know nothing about how to manage a basketball game.
Stephanie, I can assure you, nobody gives a fuck that you got fined. I can guarantee you that. Nobody gives a shit that you got fined. You got fined, so now you go into the post game and you don't defend your players, you don't stick up for your players, you don't address the clear physicality going on with your team compared to every other team. The clear hand checking that goes on to your star player compared to other star players. Now we're headed in the cloud.
So naturally, Stephanie White stands up and says, hey, maybe we should protect players. Maybe we should call the fouls that are happening right in front of our faces. Maybe, just maybe, consistency would help. And the league responds like she tried to leak the nuclear codes. The message is loud and clear. If you criticize the refs, even politely, you get slapped with a fine. Why? Because the WNBA officiating corps has the self-esteem of a wet napkin and the skin thickness of tissue paper. They can miss calls that Stevie Wonder could spot, but if you mention it out loud, congratulations, you're now public enemy number one. They don't want feedback. They want blind obedience. See something? Say nothing. That's the new league motto. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark is out there getting mauled like she's on a Discovery Channel wildlife special. Opponents are taking turns using her as a floor mat, and the refs are out here shrugging like they forgot their glasses. She's being shoved, elbowed, tripped, maybe even exercised mid-ket, and the whistles remain silent. They only come alive when she breathes near a defender. Then, boom, offensive foul. Because nothing says equality like ignoring blatant assaults unless the rookie tries to defend herself, in which case, how dare she?
And she got fined for making comments about the officiating. Like, and there's a reason why this got deleted from the Fever's official press conference. There's a reason why this got deleted from the Fever's press conference. Like, so she called out teams being overly physical in game 2. So then in games 3 and 4, they just hacked Caitlin, and the WNBA made a point to not call anything on Caitlin. They made a point to not call anything. Like, they actively made it a point. After Stephanie White came out and said, you know, we're being they're allowing them to just shove us. We need to expect that. The referees aren't going to give us anything. And then she goes, after she says that, they made it a point to not call fouls on Caitlin.
The most tragicomic part of all this is that Clark's injuries are mounting because the refs treat every mugging against her like it's part of the game plan. Remember that time she got knocked down so hard she almost traveled back to Iowa? The refs just stood there like they were watching a halftime show. What exactly needs to happen before they blow the whistle? A WWE suplex? A literal stretcher? Or does someone need to call in an airstrike just to get a foul? And don't get it twisted, this isn't just about Caitlin Clark. This is about how the league treats whistleblowers, no pun intended, who call out bad officiating. It's about a coach trying to protect her players, and a league more concerned about its image than player safety. It's the kind of bureaucratic tone deafness that makes you wonder if the league office is located inside a soundproof echo chamber. Because apparently, the biggest threat to the WNBA isn't bad refereeing, it's the people who talk about
it. This don't make no sense, man. This don't make no sense. I think Stephanie White has had enough of all the bullshit going on in the WNBA.
Let's be real. If you've watched even 10 minutes of recent Indiana Fever games, you'd notice the refs have turned non-calls into an art form. They're out there trying to earn a spot in the Louvre for their abstract interpretation of basketball rules. You'd get more accurate decisions from a coin toss or a magic 8-ball. At this point, fans are starting to wonder if the refs are operating under a new system called vibes officiating, because that's the only way to explain calling phantom fouls on one end and ignoring two-hand shoves on the other. And what's the WNBA's solution? To find the one person brave enough to say, hey, this might be a problem. It's like blaming the smoke detector for the fire. Maybe instead of penalizing Stephanie White, the league could try looking into why she's mad in the first place. But no, that would mean accountability. That would mean listening, and clearly we're not doing that.
Stephanie White, I guess in one case it sort of lets her off the hook for not having challenged the foul on Lexi Hull on the drive into the basket by Sabrina Ionescu that allowed her to shoot the free throws that essentially clinched the ball game. I did not know this, and I think what really got me thrown off was, and I tried to find the clip to that play because the CBS announce team said Stephanie White's got a challenge left. All right, when that foul took place, CBS said she's got a challenge left. Well, it didn't matter. She couldn't use it.
Instead, the WNBA is playing an aggressive game of whack-a-mole with dissenting voices. Speak up, bonk. Here's a fine. Speak up again, bigger bonk. Try it a third time, you might as well hand over your mortgage and car keys. At this rate, the league will be fining coaches for breathing too dramatically during a tense fourth quarter. Oh no. Stephanie White flared her nostrils after a missed call? That's clearly an act of sedition. $10,000. 0 cents fine. We run a tight, joyless ship here. Soon enough, they'll start distributing laminated emotion regulation charts to coaches. Stay within the allowable range of feelings or face disciplinary action. Smile too long after a three-pointer? Warning. Roll your eyes at a missed travel call? Suspension. Raise an eyebrow? That's assault with a deadly arch. See you in arbitration. Show human empathy after a player limps off the court. Lifetime ban. Welcome to the league where humanity goes to die quietly under a pile of bureaucratic nonsense.
The offense sucks. With Caitlin Clark in the lineup, the offense sucks. Without Caitlin Clark in the lineup, the offense sucks. The only time this offense has looked good in the past year has been the second half of last WNBA season. This offense sucks. Bad, garbage, basura. Throw it away, flush it down the toilet. Drop it off at a bus stop and never return.
And can we please, for the love of basketball, stop pretending that criticizing officials is some cardinal sin that undermines the integrity of the game? No. You know what actually undermines the integrity of the game? When referees officiate like they're multitasking, blowing whistles while scrolling Instagram. When they miss egregious fouls, act like obvious injuries are theatrical performances, and treat elite athletes like they're in a street brawl instead of a professional sporting event. That's what turns the game into a farce. A coach pointing that out? That's not subversion, that's quality control. That's someone saying, hey, maybe we shouldn't let obvious fouls slide just because the referee's peripheral vision was on vacation. The integrity of the game isn't built on silence and submission. It's built on accountability, fairness, and, wild idea incoming, competent officiating. If the referees were doing their jobs properly, coaches wouldn't need to say a word. But when they don't, someone has to. And fining people for caring too much about the standard of play, that's not protecting the league. That's embarrassing.
I'm not even going to talk about the foul situation because those refs fucking sucked. And I'm not just saying the non-calls for the Fever, just the calls in general. There were calls against I don't understand how some things are fouls in the WNBA and then some things aren't fouls. You got hand checking, you got pushing, grabbing jerseys, and then you got someone lightly touching somebody. And it's a foul. It's like, wait, that's a foul?
But hey, maybe the WNBA thinks this is good PR. Maybe they think fining a coach to protect her players is going to make fans go, yes, finally, someone has the guts to punish common sense. Except no one's doing that. Fans are outraged, players are frustrated, and the league looks like it's allergic to criticism. It's a bad look wrapped in a terrible decision dipped in pettiness. And let's not forget the optics here. You've got a league trying to grow, trying to gain national attention, and instead of using that attention to highlight excellence, they're spotlighting authoritarian nonsense. Instead of backing up their athletes, they're backing down from accountability. They're alienating the very voices that care enough to call for change. Stephanie White is exactly the kind of coach this league should be propping up. Passionate, principled, and protective of her players. But instead of applauding her for advocating for fairness and safety, they're punishing her for making the refs feel attacked. What's next? Therapy puppies for the officials? Trigger warnings for post-game pressers? Today's game may include criticism. Viewer discretion is advised.
That was not underneath the basket. That was hard to see. The back-to-back. She had her back to her. It was in the open area. At least two of the refs, if not three of them, should have seen that foul. Caitlin pointed to it. They still didn't blow their whistle. She goes over there, and she played on the ball. She clearly was not letting her arms go up.
Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark, the golden goose of the WNBA, is being body checked like she accidentally wandered into an NFL training camp wearing a "hit me" sign. She's not just taking contact. She's being bulldozed, elbowed, hip-checked, and pancaked like it's an Olympic sport. If she somehow gets through this rookie season without being fitted for a full body cast, it'll be worthy of its own ESPN documentary. And the referees? They're essentially statues with whistles, silent, stoic, unbothered. Their commitment to ignoring blatant fouls is so unwavering, they're making Switzerland look aggressive. You could flatten Clark with a construction crane and the lead ref would probably squint, shrug, and call it incidental contact. Next time you tune into an Indiana Fever game, don't just watch Clark's shooting stats. Watch how often she gets sent to the floor like she's auditioning for a WWE cage match. Watch Stephanie White on the sidelines slowly morph into a human pressure cooker, trying not to detonate every time her star player gets mugged without a call. Because the real problem here isn't officiating incompetence. No, the league doesn't mind the chaos. What it minds is that you're starting to notice. And that makes you the real threat.
All of the established stars in this WNBA constantly, quietly, privately complain to their coaches and to their team executives about Caitlin Clark getting way too much attention and way too much credit for the exploding TV ratings. The attitude I sense from so many other older WNBA players seems to be, what do we chop liver? It's not just her driving these ratings. What have we been doing all these years? Sorry, ladies, but compared to her drawing power, you are chopped liver. You're just going to have to accept that she and she alone is driving the ratings way above what all of you together were able to generate before she first set foot on a WNBA stage.
The WNBA has made its position abundantly clear. Coaches are expected to smile politely, nod approvingly, and act as though the officiating is a masterclass in perfection, even when it's less masterclass and more flaming dumpster fire rolling downhill. Reality, after all, is messy, unpredictable, and deeply inconvenient. And acknowledging officiating flaws, that's apparently reserved for reckless amateurs, not the curated, image-obsessed fantasy land the league seems determined to maintain. In this bubble-wrapped utopia, everything is always fine, players never get injured, and referees operate with divine infallibility. Pointing out the obvious, that sometimes, maybe, just maybe, the officials miss a call or 12 is treated like sacrilege. The WNBA would prefer its coaches to be puppets in a PR campaign rather than passionate advocates for fairness and accountability. So if a coach dares to express frustration, not with malice, but with honesty, the response isn't dialogue, it's discipline. Because in the eyes of the league, preserving the illusion is more important than fixing the crack. Heaven forbid anyone suggests the Emperor's whistle might be a little off-key.
It's unbelievable that the WNBA just refuses to take this W. They refuse to take the win that is Caitlin Clark. They are putting every landmine in front of them. Players and members of teams are calling entire fan bases racist. Brittany Griner, when asked about new fans of the game and more eyeballs on television to the product and everything else, says, oh yeah, I don't want the new racist fans. All these racists that are in the league that like Caitlin Clark. I don't like what's going on. I certainly don't like that. I don't want them. I mean, just take the W. It's going to mean more money for everybody.
But don't worry, fans. As long as coaches like Stephanie White continue to speak out, even when it costs them fines and public scrutiny, there's still hope. Hope that someone, somewhere in the league office will finally decide that enough is enough. Because let's be honest, when coaches are getting penalized for defending their players, while referees continue to miss blatant calls and escape accountability, something is seriously broken. White's willingness to take the heat publicly isn't just admirable, it's necessary. She's not just making noise, she's sending up flares. And maybe, just maybe, the more flares that get launched, the harder it becomes for the league to ignore the smoke. This isn't just a basketball season anymore, it's turning into a full-blown drama, complete with fines, controversy, and questionable officiating. The league can try to muzzle voices like White's, but as long as she and others keep calling it like it is, the pressure will keep building. Until then, bring popcorn, bring receipts, bring a whistle of your own, because this circus, it's not slowing down anytime soon. If anything, it's picking up steam. And everyone's got front row seats.